Give it away to keep it. A short Christmas story, written and narrated by Jermaine J. Rockwell Phillips. The grocery store buzzed with holiday cheer, twinkling with the soft glow of Christmas lights strung along every aisle. Children's laughter echoed as a man dressed as Santa Claus handed out his last two gifts of the day. His plush red suit gleamed under the overhead lights, and his snowy white beard wiggled slightly with every enthusiastic "ho, ho, ho." Just as he was about to take a much-deserved breather, a voice as lively as a holiday jingle called out behind him, "Hey, Santa, what's good? I see you, and I love what you're doing with the kids." Santa turned to find a vibrant woman, microphone in hand, with a confident stride that screamed she belonged in front of a camera. Beside her stood a man cradling a hefty camera rig ready to capture every moment. "Oh, oh, oh, everything is gravy, baby," Santa smoothly said, his voice full of warmth. "How about yourself?" The woman flashed a dazzling smile. "I'm as cool as a cold glass of eggnog, Santa." "Oh, oh, 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 I know that's right," Santa replied, chuckling deeply. "As you can see, I'm all out of gifts. So, how can I help you two?" She held out her hand, her nails painted a festive candy cane red. "I'm Debbie the One, and this is Cam, my cameraman. And we'd love to do a quick live interview with you, if that's okay." Debbie the One is a well-known podcast and social media influencer from Chicago. "Oh, oh, oh, most definitely," Santa exclaimed, his cheerful spirit unwavering. So Debbie motioned toward a nearby table and the trio moved swiftly, Cam already adjusting his camera settings while Debbie arranged the chairs. Once everything was set, she turned to the others. "Santa, you ready?" "I sure am," Santa said, settling into his chair. "Thank you." "Cam, you good to go?" "Rolling and ready," Cam replied, giving Debbie a thumbs up. Debbie turned to the camera with an experienced ease, her energy infectious. "All right, let's roll in 3, 2, 1. Action." Hey, what's good? It's your girl, Debbie the One, and I'm here live with the one and only, yes, you guessed it, Mr. Santa Claus himself. Santa beamed at the camera, his rosy cheeks adding authenticity to the act. "Oh, oh, oh, Merry Christmas, everybody." Debbie leaned in slightly, her tone softening. "So Santa, today you gave away over 100 gifts to foster kids, homeless people, and families in need. Tell me, how does making others feel special and loved during the holidays make you feel?" Santa paused for a moment and then, to everyone's surprise, he began removing his hat and beard. The transformation was almost magical. Beneath the snowy white fluff and the cheerful facade was a strikingly handsome man with smooth brown skin, sharp cheekbones, and a warm, genuine smile. "Whew," he said, scratching his jawline and exhaling deeply. "Sorry about that, Debbie. It was getting way too hot under all that. The beard is so itchy." He set the costume pieces aside, his demeanor shifting slightly but still radiating kindness. "Anyway, how are you, young lady? I'm Ivan Lemont, the philanthropist." Debbie blinked, momentarily thrown off by the unexpected reveal. Then her face broke into an expression of exaggerated surprise. Wow! Ivan Lemont. I had no idea all of that hotness was hiding under that Santa's beard. Ivan laughed, shaking his head. Stop it, Debbie. You're gonna make me blush. She waved a playful hand in the air, as if fanning herself. All right. Let's get back to business, Mr. Ivan Lemont, the philanthropist extraordinaire. Same question. How does it feel to make people feel special and loved at Christmas time? Ivan leaned back slightly in his chair, his smile softening into something more thoughtful. You know, Debbie, there's nothing quite like it. Seeing the joy on a child's face when they open a gift, knowing you've given hope to someone who might have felt forgotten. It's truly humbling. And it reminds me what the season is really about. Giving from the heart and making connections that matter. Debbie nodded, her usual bubbly energy tempered by genuine admiration. Beautifully said, Ivan. And let me tell you, the world could use a lot more of that. As the interview continued, the festive buzz of the store seemed to amplify, the holiday spirit wrapping around the trio like a warm embrace. Ivan Lemont may have taken off the Santa suit, but to everyone watching, it was clear this man was Christmas. Ivan Lamont's smile softened as he settled back into his chair. His gaze drifted, as though he could see the memory playing out before him like a cherished film. Well, Miss Debbie, he began, his voice warm, I must admit, making people feel special and loved equally makes me feel 10 times as special and loved as they do. Debbie leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Wow, that's awesome, Santa. I mean, Ivan Lemont. So, tell me, do you remember the first gift you've ever given someone? Ivan chuckled softly, shaking his head in quiet reflection. Do I? Yes, I remember it as though it was yesterday. He paused for a moment, then continued, his tone tinged with nostalgia. I was 7 years old when I learned my first real lesson in philanthropy. Back then, I spent a lot of time with my Aunt Marie. She was my guide and light, always teaching me lessons about life in the most unexpected ways. One of her favorite things to do was give me a word of the day. Debbie smiled, visibly intrigued. Word of the day? That sounds so sweet. Ivan nodded. It was her way of making sure I learned something valuable every time we were together. On this particular day, the word was generosity. Aunt Marie pronounced it slowly and clearly, then explained its meaning to me. Generosity, the act of being kind and giving, especially to those in need. She made me repeat it back to her. I did, eager to impress her, and she smiled, that proud smile of hers, and said, "Such a sweet boy." He chuckled softly, his eyes crinkling at every memory. After that, we went to lunch. And that's when she surprised me with the green Jaguar toy convertible car I'd been dreaming about since the previous Christmas. Oh man, I was over the moon. You couldn't tell me I wasn't the happiest kid alive that day. I must have thanked her 1,000,000 times in 3 minutes. Debbie laughed, clearly charmed by his story. I can only imagine. Ivan's smile faded slightly as the memory turned bittersweet. But Aunt Marie wasn't done teaching me about generosity. After lunch, as we were walking back to the car, we passed a homeless woman and her little boy. He was about my age, 7, maybe 8. They were asking for food or money to buy food. I remember the way the woman's voice trembled when she spoke, and the boy's wide, tired eyes. It hit me, even then, how much they were struggling. Debbie's expression softened, and Cam, the cameraman, zoomed in, capturing the weight of the moment. Aunt Marie stopped, Ivan continued, and without a second thought, she reached into her purse and gave the woman some money. I watched as the woman's face transformed. It just lit up, from sadness to pure happiness. It was beautiful to see. Then Aunt Marie turned to me and asked, "Ivan, do you have anything to give the little boy?" Ivan paused, with a guilt-ridden smile playing on his lips. I checked all my pockets and shook my head. "No," I said. But Aunt Marie gave me that look, the kind only she could give, and asked me again, "Are you sure you don't have something to give the little boy?" I knew where this was going, and I wasn't ready for it. I said, "No, Auntie. All I have is the new green Jaguar convertible car that you gave me today." He shook his head, laughing softly at his younger self. She just raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do you remember the word of the day?" I tried to play dumb and said, "No, I don't remember, Auntie." But Aunt Marie wasn't having it. She put her hands on her hips and gave me the look. So, with tears welling up in my eyes, I admitted, "Yes, Auntie, I remember the word. It's generosity. The act of being kind and giving, especially to those in need." Debbie covered her mouth, clearly moved by the story. "Good," Aunt Marie said. Then she asked me one last time, "Now, Ivan, do you have anything to give the little boy?" Ivan's voice grew quieter, his words heavy with emotion, and I knew there was only one answer I could give. So, with a heavy heart, I nodded and handed the little boy my brand new green Jaguar toy convertible car. I was crying real tears as I said, "Here you go, little boy. This car is for you." He smiled faintly, remembering the little boy's reaction. His face lit up brighter than any Christmas tree I'd ever seen. He couldn't stop thanking me, saying it was the best day of his life, and that he always wanted a toy like that car. It was unforgettable. Ivan's voice trailed off, his eyes shimmering with the weight of the memory. Afterwards, we got back into Aunt Marie's car. I was quiet, feeling sad, and even a little angry about giving away my toy. But Aunt Marie just patted me on my head and said, "Ivan, remember this. The joy you give to others will always come back to you tenfold." He leaned forward, his smile returning as he looked directly at Debbie. And you know what? She was right. That little boy's joy, his gratitude, it stayed with me long after I forgot about the sting of losing that toy car. It stayed with me my whole life. Debbie wiped at the corner of her eye, clearly touched. "Ivan, that's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing it. Your Aunt Marie sounds like an awesome and amazing woman." "She was," Ivan said. "She taught me everything I know about what it means to truly give." The warmth of the studio glowed against Santa's rosy cheeks, but his mind was far away. Debbie the one had asked about the origins of his giving spirit, and her question had nudged open the doors of a memory he cherished deeply. For a moment, he wasn't Santa Claus anymore. He was Ivan, a little boy of 7, sitting in the back seat of Aunt Marie's car. The scent of her floral perfume mixed with the faint aroma of leftover lunch from the bags in the front seat. "Ivan," Aunt Marie said, her voice calm yet firm, "that was so nice of you to give your toy to that little boy. There will come times in our lives when we have to make sacrifices and give generously to those in need, just like you did today. Ivan stared at his hands, where only an hour ago he had clutched his most prized possession, a sleek green Jaguar toy convertible car. He had only owned it for less than an hour, and he hadn't let it out of his sight until he saw the boy in the park. The boy's clothes were too small and torn, and his eyes lit up when he spotted the car. Ivan hadn't thought much. He just simply handed it over. Now, his heart was a jumble of feelings he couldn't quite understand. He was proud but also sad. Wasn't he supposed to feel good about what he'd done? Aunt Marie reached over and gently patted his shoulder. My dad always told me, you have to give it away to keep it. He'd be so proud of you, Ivan, the exact same way that I am right now. She paused, a playful smile spreading across her face. Now put on your seatbelt. We're going back to the toy store before it closes. Ivan blinked, unsure if he'd heard her right. What? She laughed, her voice full of warmth. Let's get you another green Jaguar toy convertible car. You earned it. Ivan's mouth fell open. Another one? He barely had time to process her words before the car roared to life, and then they sped off toward the toy store. Back in the present, Santa blinked, shaking off the memory. His lips curled into a smile as he looked across the table at Debbie, who was leaning in, completely captivated. What? Another one? He said aloud, picking up the story. I couldn't believe it. I remember feeling 10 times as happier getting the second toy than I had the first one. And that right there was my first philanthropy lesson. It wasn't about the toy. It was about the joy of giving. Ever since then, I've been giving to charities, supporting the needy, and helping the homeless. Debbie's eyes glistened with admiration. Oh my God, she whispered. That's one of the best stories and lessons I've ever heard. Wow. In a room full of inspired hearts and the quiet magic of his enduring lesson, Santa adjusted his sack over his shoulder, chuckled, and then adjusted his iconic red hat. Thank you, Miss Debbie the One. I appreciate the interview, but I've got to get back to work now. You know, the North Pole's not going to restock itself. And besides, there's a lot of people in need out there, and a lot of people are counting on me. And on all of us. Santa rose from his chair, gave a nod to Debbie, his eyes twinkling. And remember, he said, tapping the side of his nose, the spirit of giving isn't just for Christmas. It's for every day. From behind the camera, Cam gives an approving nod. Amen to that, Santa. Debbie smiled, her eyes shining as she turned to face the camera for her closing remarks. Yes, indeed. Amen to that. On that note, I'd like to wish you all a very happy holiday from your homegirl, Debbie the One, and of course, the one and only Mr. Santa Claus. Cam swung his camera towards Santa, ready to capture a final shot of the jolly man in his red suit. But the viewfinder showed something strange. Santa was gone. Wait, Cam muttered, lowering the camera and glancing toward where Santa had stood just moments ago. The brightly lit Christmas setup, the sleigh, the twinkling decorations, the festive backdrop, all of it had disappeared. In its place, the grocery store hummed with normalcy. Customers pushed carts filled with cereal boxes and fresh produce, oblivious to the surreal turn of events. Children raced through the aisles, their laughter echoing off the walls. there was no sign of Santa, as if he had never been there at all. Debbie spun around, her face a mask of confusion. "Where did he go?" she whispered, her eyes darting across the store. "I mean, he was just here." Cam shook his head, equally baffled. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "He was standing right here, plain as day." As they struggled to process the sudden disappearance, a voice interrupted their thoughts. Excuse me," the store owner said, striding toward them with a firm expression. "Hi, folks. I'm sorry, but there's no filming allowed in the store. I'm going to have to ask you both to leave." Debbie turned to him, still scanning the aisles in a futile search for Santa. But we were just here interviewing Santa Claus," she blurted. "You know, spreading awareness about generosity and helping people in need. He was standing right here, I swear." Cam nodded. "It's true. I even have it all on film." He held up the camera as if it could prove their story. The manager raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Santa Claus?" he said dryly. "Well, the Santa Claus gift drive we hosted was last Saturday, not today. I think you've got the wrong day." Debbie and Cam exchanged bewildered glances, their confusion deepening. "Last Saturday?" Debbie echoed softly. The manager sighed, crossing his arms. "Look, I've heard enough. It's really time for you both to leave my store." Reluctantly, Debbie and Cam gathered their gear and began making their way toward the exit. The bustling normalcy of the grocery store around them felt surreal, as though the magical moment they had just experienced was nothing more than just a dream. "Where do you think he went?" Debbie whispered as she stepped into the crisp afternoon air. Cam shook his head, his expression grim. "I don't know, Deb. I just don't know." After loading the last piece of video equipment, Debbie slammed the trunk shut, her breath visible in the crisp December air. She turned to see Cam sitting on the edge of the car, his camera balanced in his lap, his brows knitted in frustration. "Is this really happening?" he muttered, his voice low. Debbie frowned and crossed her arms. "What's really happening?" she asked, her tone laced with impatience. Cam raised his head slowly, the worry in his eyes unmistakable. The footage, Deb. It's all gone. All of it." Debbie froze. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" Her voice rose, disbelief washing all over her face. "Stop messing with me, Cam. You never mess up with that camera. That's literally why I named you Cam, the cameraman. You're too good for mistakes." Wordlessly, Cam turned the screen toward her, the empty file glaring back like a taunt. "Look for yourself, Deb," he said quietly. "It's not here. I know for a fact I recorded everything, every word, every shot, or..." He hesitated, then cracked a weak, incredulous smile. "Or we're nuttier than a Christmas fruitcake, Deb." Debbie stared at the screen, her jaw hanging. For a moment she couldn't find the words. Then she threw her hands in the air. "Oh, well, at this point that's obvious, Cam. We're absolutely nuttier than a Christmas fruitcake." Shaking her head, she pulled open the driver's side door, but paused before climbing in. "You know what? I don't understand any of this, but right now I'm feeling a little crazy. Let's just keep this to ourselves, okay, Cam? No one's gonna believe us. And to keep it 100, I'm not sure if I even believe it myself." Cam nodded solemnly. Agreed. Not a word about this to anyone. They shook hands, a silent pact sealed in the cold air of the grocery store parking lot. But just as they turned to get in the car, something caught Debbie's eye. What the? Her voice faded. Cam followed her gaze. Two neatly wrapped Christmas gifts sat inside the car, one on the driver's seat and the other on the passenger seat. The red and green wrapping paper shimmered under the weak winter sunlight. Debbie and Cam exchanged a weird look, then instinctively scanned the parking lot. It was empty, with the exception of a few shoppers heading to their cars. No one was in sight, and no one was near them. Did someone break in? Cam asked, stepping closer. Debbie shook her head. The car was locked. It was locked, wasn't it? Of course it was, Cam muttered, his brow raised. They opened the door cautiously, each picking up the gift labeled with their names in elegant handwriting. Debbie's hands trembled slightly as she examined the tag on her gift. To Debbie, Cam held up his tag, an identical message scrawled on it with his name instead of hers. Their eyes met, bewilderment giving way to curiosity. Slowly, they peeled back the wrapping paper. Inside, each box held the same thing, a shiny green Jaguar convertible toy car. Nestled beside the toys was a Christmas card with a handwritten note. Give it away to keep it. Love, Santa. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Cam laughed, the sound warm and disbelieving. Debbie couldn't help but join in, laughter bubbling up despite the strangeness of it all. They sat in the car, the toys in their laps, the card resting on the dashboard between the two of them. The laughter faded, replaced by a quiet sense of wonder. Cam, Debbie finally said, her voice soft. I don't know what just happened, but I think we were a part of something bigger than either of us understands. Cam nodded, a smile lingering on his lips. Yeah, Deb, I think we were also. And as they pulled out of the parking lot, with the little green cars gleaming in their boxes, they couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere out there, Santa was smiling. The end.